How's it going with you?
Just trying to stay ahead of them as best I can.
What's new in your world?
Not too much. I mean, not directly. I'm trying to. We got some new services coming out that with January 4, I guess we're having a brief on some new services, and the other one that I'm working on uh, to some degree is the PCIF class action claim for Visa
Oh, really?
MasterCard. We work with a FRS as a company out of New York, and they've been doing class action management for 15 years.
Hmm.
And
So
I've
you're
been working with them on a number of class actions over the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, and I have a couple paid off, and I've got some stuff in the PCIF, and it's coming together finally. I mean, this thing's only been going since 2004.
that's all, huh?
Yeah,
That's history at this point.
yeah. Well, that could be worth a lot of money for some folks that if they took in, if they were taking in Visa Master, then anything from January 2004 to January of 2019, um, there's some money to be had. There's 16 million claimants and different things going on, but I can't remember some of the numbers, but if they get 25% of that number, uh, that's still a lot of money running around with at 5.5 billion.
I hear you. I hear you.
Now, and I get a kick out of, I talked to a business owner the other day. I was with the auto shop because I was getting my car fixed and talking to the owner, and oh yeah, well, and it's like, it takes the two forms that need filling out take maybe 4 minutes. And because well, what do I get back? And I'm going, depends on how many people jump in and how much got screwed on. And, well, I don't know. The ROI on 4 minutes, if he gets $10 is not bad. And if he gets 100, it's not bad. If he gets 20,000, it's a pretty good ROI.
I hear you.
Because they're looking at, and if I recall, and don't quote me, they're looking at something along the lines of 2 or 3% recovery on gross revenue. So if you're, running, and this guy's probably running a couple of million a year in revenue, he's a huge shop. That's a lot of money coming back, but trying to get him to see that and understand it's a pain in the ass. And
Yeah.
it, only because my car was in the shop and I got to go back again for something else. I'll broach the subject with him, but just it's interesting how people react to shit. Excuse me.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So, Dave, are you a veteran?
Oh, hell yes, 32 years.
Yeah, I was looking for that on your profile on
It
LinkedIn.
it should be there and very prominently there.
Huh.
Oh, let me get into LinkedIn. Unless something changed, doo-doo-doo. It sounds like somebody else is going to decide to join us. Yeah, right
Timothy.
there, the very about me is, Marine veteran, veteran owned, and service disabled veteran. Plus my background is service disabled veteran owned business.
So, the gentleman that I co-host this meeting with is a guy named Dennis Schroeder, and he's retired military, Army officer. He
Okay,
couldn't make it this week, but our objective is to help veterans.
okay.
I'm a vet, and you know, you know how many veterans there are in this country?
In the country?
Huh?
No, I don't. There's quite a few though. I understand that one.
16.1 million veterans.
Okay.
That's not a small number.
No, it's not. It's not.
Kind of a mind blower. Hey, Timothy?
Hello.
She would do whatever, so whatever she wanted.
No.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure can.
Now we can.
First time being here. I'm currently in New York City
Gotcha.
and a freelance journalist with military veterans in journalism.
Oh, interesting.
I'm writing. Hold on. I'm in the process of writing a series of articles on the conditions of the veterans here in New York, in the homeless shelter. Also, a VA program called Grant Per Diem program.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it's a veterans VA transitional program for veterans experiencing homelessness to get access to resources and services for mental health, employment, sustainable housing, whole host of criteria for the veterans in the program. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm also on the Veterans Task Force,
Nice.
New York City Veterans Task Force, and I'm writing a resource guide for veterans coming into the shelter system.
Interesting. The gentleman that I was just telling Dave and I know each other, ironically, from somewhere before. I
Yeah.
can't remember where. Where are you out of, Dave?
Where am I out of? Las Vegas.
Oh, right. I saw that.
Yeah.
And the gentleman that's normally here with me is a guy named Dennis Schroeder, and he's out of Tennessee. He couldn't make it here today. We usually have, this is an iffy time of the year because we know a few things. By the way, and an aside, my daughter used to work for the VA. She's got a doctorate in psychology. She said to me that it was one of the most difficult jobs she's ever had in her entire life. And the reason for that is the amount of suicides. Do you know how many vets commit suicide on a daily basis? Daily basis.
Yeah, between 70 and up. The number the
not quite
VA
that
puts
high,
out
but
at
25 is
22
the
is
number.
total bullshit. They
Pardon
only
me?
surveyed 16 states. 2 of those states that were not surveyed were California and New York.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, no,
That's
I'm the
interesting.
co-chairman for the 22 Warrior Foundation here locally, which is suicide prevention for veteran suicide prevention.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've known that 22 number they put out as total BS since they put it out.
I always wondered about that.
Yeah, we feel that
Always
it's
wondered
somewhere
about
north of 70.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I can believe that, Dave. I absolutely can believe that. Just in dealing with veterans, that knowing, back in my day, I don't know how old you are, but you got a gray beard, so I'm 74.
No, I guess you beat. I'm 77.
You're 77?
63.
Yeah.
How old are
You're
you?
a young guy then, Tommy.
63.
Yeah.
63. Oh yeah, you're just a kid.
I'm a youngster.
What branch of the military were you in?
I was stationed with the Seabees in Coronado, San Diego.
Gotcha. So I have a great little story about me. So I went to boot camp in San Diego.
That's what, yeah.
Then I went up to Treasure Island in San Francisco. Most people were going through transit in 2 to 3 weeks. I'm there 90 days, not getting orders, not getting orders, not getting orders. All of a sudden, I get detached from the US Navy and assigned to NATO, and I worked in a base that Alexander Haig was in. There were something like 250 enlisted men and 275 officers. There were something like 16 admirals on that base. By the way, guys, do you carry your DD-214 with you?
Not as a general rule.
Well, let me tell you another story. This will probably be the most worthwhile thing that you do. So here's my DD-214 right here. Right here. Come on, I can't even get it out of my wallet. There it is, right there. Okay. So we go into, my wife and I wanted to get 6 phones for my family. iPhones. And I bought the phones and I'm about ready to walk out of the store. And I turned around and said, by the way, did you give military discounts? Veteran discounts? They said, sure. My phone bill went from $450 a month to $250 a month.
Wow.
So that's why I carry it in my wallet. So for Veterans Day, did you get free meals?
Yeah, they're out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta love
Everywhere
Applebee's.
I was in Scottsdale, Arizona. Everywhere we went that day, I said I was a veteran. I got free meals the entire day through the evening. And so what it is, I look, when I was in the service and, and Dave, right? Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave Austin.
Yeah.
It was dogs and sailors keep off the grass.
Mhm. Should have been a Marine. It was worse.
Well, and now what do you get? Thank you for your service.
True.
So amazing. So amazing. And so we were hated when we were in the military, right?
No kidding.
Absolutely hated. Now people appreciate veterans. I used to throw a Christmas event at the VA in West LA every year for a number of years because I wanted to do a payback to veterans and neglected people. And then based on what my daughter was talking about, how incredibly difficult. Look, guys, here's our key. The key to this whole thing is that there's a reason that veterans are appreciated now. And we could remember the past. Those are the two pieces of our mindscape or landscape, whatever you want to call it. And we did our honor, and we served. So I get assigned to NATO. I called up my dad, who was vacationing in Germany. I said, Dad, did you bribe a congressman or something? He says, what are you talking about? He says, I'm not going to Vietnam. I was a 3rd-class radioman, choice grade A beef for River Patrol. And I don't end up in Vietnam. I end up in Norfolk, Virginia for 2.5 years. So I was one of the lucky ones, right? So if you were in your 70s, most likely you went to Vietnam.
I spent 2 tours in Vietnam.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I lucked out. I enlisted in 77. So, but My dad was on the USS Ticonderoga in Vietnam,
I know.
and I had lots of uncles, Army, um, uh, mostly Army and Navy in Vietnam. And then, of course, we had a ton of, I was on Coronado Island. So most of the SEAL team instructors were Vietnam. And, we were all on the same base. And we had a lot of the Seabees that I was stationed with were all Vietnam as well. So I kind of grew up under your guys' wings, if that's
Yeah.
a good way to put it.
I get it. So I took my kids to the Vietnam Memorial in DC. And my son, who was probably 5, 6 years old, decides to have a temper tantrum. And everybody was taking their pencils or crayons or whatever they're doing, and they were scrolling over their loved ones, over their memorial
Yep.
there. And oh my God, it was crazy. So I threw my son over my shoulder and took him to the Lincoln Memorial. gotta get away from it. Listen, my whole thing is I'm trying to grow the appreciation of veterans. Even as being a youngster, what did you say, 63 years old?
Yeah.
We've gone through crazy times, right?
Yeah.
We sacrificed for our country. And just having that appreciation to do something that not a lot of people have done. Like I said, there's 16 million veterans in this country, out of a population of climbing on 400 million people. That's
Well,
not
less than 1% of the population serve.
what. Say that again.
Less than 1% of the population serve.
Right. So first of all, guys, thank you for your service. Thank you for your commitment. Dave, I presume you went in not by choice, but by draft.
Yes and no.
Were you drafted?
Well, yes and no. I knew it was coming. I graduated in June of 1965, and I actually enlisted in what do they call it? Delayed enlistment in April of 65, and reported to San Diego in July of 65.
Where were you living
I
then?
enlisted in the Marine Corps because I knew it was coming. I was 2 weeks in boot camp when my folks forwarded my draft notice.
No kidding.
Yeah, so I just beat them. I got ahead of them. It was about it. And the difference is, because I enlisted in the Corps, I originally enlisted for aviation, and I found myself, as soon as I finished boot camp, going through what we call there was a name for it, basically replacement battalion, i.e. I got spooled up and sent to Vietnam. And I put boots on the ground the first time in January of 1966.
Wow. All I can tell you is I was very, very lucky.
Yeah, I won't argue it. I was very lucky too. I did 2 tours and I came home pretty much intact, physically intact. And, but it's a interesting experience. I mean, I hit country at 18. I spent my 19th birthday and 20th birthdays in country. And I celebrated, I can remember my 19th birthday where I was at. I was with the 2nd Battalion 1st Marines. We were the furthest north unit in country at the time.
Oh, wow.
and I spent my 19th birthday sitting on top of a Conex box, drinking a warm Tiger beer that somebody found and watching a firefight. Hello.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So it's,
I remember the Tiger beer. Wasn't that in Singapore?
it may have been, but it was in Vietnam too.
Oh yeah, I think it was in Singapore as well.
Yeah,
Tiger beer.
yeah. Well, and further down down the road, we started getting, we got stateside stuff occasionally, and then up north it was tough. In the beginning, I mean, like I say, we were a single reinforced battalion, and it it was not fun. I mean, we had C rations and K rations, and it was it wasn't bad, but it was when you're the sole unit, you don't get a lot of shit sent to you,
Yeah.
and but as time went on, it got better, and we got stuff, but yeah, it was an interesting time.
I did
Timothy, they did.
I did one Westpac, Western Pacific cruise to 1980 during the Iranian hostage
Oh,
siege.
oh my God, that must have been
We
great.
were 30 miles off the coast of Iran when the rescue attempt failed. We were actually supposed to be picking up. It was either MI6 or SEAL team. After they got the hostages out, they lost 8 Marines when the helicopters went down.
I remember this.
Yeah.
To
So
remember this
I
stuff,
that was
look,
some of those guys I flew with.
it tells you something when you
Yeah,
remember.
that was a
your
cluster.
memory.
That was probably the largest fail of an operation I've seen to date.
Wow.
Other than coming out of Afghanistan, that was pretty fucked up. But
That was more
So how are you, Timothy? How are you helping vets now?
I have well, I'm kind of a pain in their ass. I spent 5 months in a violent shelter, and so I already have an organization called Veterans Justice Project that uh, addresses, caters or assists homeless and incarcerated veterans. Since coming to New York now, a little less than a year and a half ago, I started an organization called the Forgotten Veteran, and this is to provide access to resources, services, that type of thing to veterans who are transitioning either from military into civilian, prison into civilian, or homelessness into civilian uh, environment. So we, like I said, I've been doing this about, well, I've had Veterans Justice Project about 5 years now. I think I started it around 2000, 4 years. I started it in 2019.
So are you a connection of mine on LinkedIn?
Most likely. I think your name looks familiar.
Yeah, I'm trying to find you here. And I'm not, whoops, I got Dave Austin's name up all of a sudden. Hey, we're in crazy times now too, right?
Won't argue that one.
Well, yeah, we, you know,
Oh,
I
here-
have Karen.
Yeah, Karen and Bob Friedenthal. I don't
Okay,
think-
we're not connected. Doesn't
Okay.
look like it.
Why don't you do this? Why don't you connect to me?
Okay.
You don't have to send a message. I'll figure it out. Yeah, I've actually brought on, I made a decision several months ago to start connecting to veterans, trying to help them out. I used to run a Christmas party every year at the VA in West Los Angeles, and then talking to my daughter and figuring out, understanding how much difficulty veterans have. So, you know, definitely appreciate all this stuff, right?
Yep. No, it's an interesting time. I mean, things have changed considerably since, the three of us served. But, especially, Bob and myself from, the Vietnam era. And it was a whole hell of a lot different, coming home. And, the irony when I came home, that from my last tour in Vietnam, I was stationed at TI. And that's where we crossed paths. I was at the Marine Barracks at Treasure Island. And,
Oh, wow.
and I worked downtown as a liaison with the Fleet Post Office. So I was surrounded by, civilians, and this is 1968 and 69.
Wow.
You know how many
There
years
were
we
some
go
days
back?
that got a little testy.
Yeah, I can
for us.
imagine. I can imagine. We,
And I-
and I was fortunate. I never had to. We didn't have to deal with that. We were peacetime, but um, I what got me, because I work in suicide prevention and mental health now. What got me started with that was we had. I was 15 years old. We had a guy that came back from Vietnam. I grew up in the copper mines in eastern Arizona,
Yeah, okay.
and in fact, my little sister was stationed at Nellis
Oh, okay.
and just retired 2 years ago after 22. She did Air Force intelligence. She's
Oh,
a little
okay.
badass, but Richard was, Vietnam vet, working for the copper mines, had a girlfriend. Um, he was 8 years older than I was at the time. So he was around 24, 8 years younger than my dad, who was around 32, 33. And, one night he went to work and blew his fucking brains out. And it just shocked the community because it was like, what the hell happened here? Where
Like,
nobody, it was, I was the honorary pallbearer. I'm, 16 years old. And, it was, nobody saw this coming. Nobody knew what happened. And so when I went into the military, that was always kind of, at my mind, at the front of my mind is what happened, what happens to veterans or military, and to cause that type of thing, because I love this guy, like he was like a big brother to me. And then we get into the middle of the Persian Gulf, and a Marine gets a bad letter from home, and 4 years later he gets an M16A. You guys remember those? And he
Oh, yeah.
blew his brains out in front of us, in the middle of the Indian Ocean, in the middle of the Persian Gulf there. And it's just been this thing as I work more with mental illness and more with mental health and suicide prevention in the veterans community now. I see these oftentimes fairly simple steps that we can take as veterans who have experienced what our communities can kind of like impose against us. We see sometimes simple steps that we can take to help the veteran who is struggling. And a lot of that comes with identifying these type of risk factors, these type of stress factors that are not always um, noticed or observed by especially the civilian community. So I do a lot of work in that right now. Doing a lot of work with talking to city councils. Last year, I spoke before the New York State Department of Veteran Services on suicide prevention and how we can be helping the veterans who are experiencing homelessness and those steps that we can take to see them be successful.
Are you
you for doing
working with
that.
any businesses specifically for hiring the veterans that you're working with?
Yeah, so if you look at the website that I'm working on right now, I go through pretty much all of those things that have that we have access to. So like vocational rehab and employment, housing services. So the idea is to provide the veterans with as much information as possible, so that if, like in my case, I came up here, I got on a plane in Phoenix, got off a plane here in New York City, and I ended up at the shelter. I came here completely homeless and without any access to resources. I had no idea what the hell was going on. And so now what I'm trying to do is get those type of things especially for those veterans who are struggling in their own communities and they need to get out of those communities and get a whole new environment and a whole new look. So what I'm trying to do is get these resources together so that if you're in a position like me, you're in Phoenix or you're in LA or you're in Miami and you want to look at another place, then we can facilitate access to information to make that transition a little bit easier for you. Maybe you can do a little more planning, if not necessarily with the housing and the programs with the homeless services within the VA, but especially like vocational rehab, employment, veteran friendly organizations that you can get set up with, get pre-registered with, that type of thing.
One organization you might want to look into, it's not specifically for vets, but then again it is ESGR. ESGR is Employers in Support of the Guard Reserve. They're a DoD function, and what their purpose is to be a liaison between the reserve and the Guard member and their employer, because of what happens with the Guard and Reserve and employers. But I bring that up because one, they're situated in the military community. Two, they usually have multiple outreaches, one being, and they keep changing the name on me, but it's Heroes to Hire is usually affiliated with ESGR. They're not part of them, but they're affiliated.
ESPR?
GR, Employers in Support of the Guard and Reserve.
Employers, supporters.
Support.
Of the Guard and Reserve, got it.
Yeah, and they'll they usually have a pretty good network of employers that will hire veterans. You know, even the homeless veteran, they have usually, like I say, they usually are if they have office space, because it's one of those, some do, some don't. They will be co-housed with recruiting operations called Heroes to Hire. Used to be Yellow, beyond the Yellow Ribbon or some crap. It's been changed about 4 times, but they are connected because of what they do. And, you know, so you might want to reach out to them. They could probably give you some assistance with employers as well as other organizations that's so, and because it's a national organization, but it is a state and or regional committee that runs it. And
Okay.
they have a lot of contacts in the military and outside of the military.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. Thanks. This looks great. One of the organizations that I'm working with is are you guys have you guys either of you familiar with the Joseph P. Dwyer DWYER program?
No.
It's basically kind of like a one-stop shop, and so it replaces uh, it acts as Department of Veteran Services um, in the outlying counties of New York State. So each county has their own Dwyer program. Like I said, it's like a one-stop shop. Acts like a supportive services for veteran families, SSVF type of thing. And so here in New York City, we have Department of Veteran Services, but these type of programs are always looking for opportunities to partner with uh, some organizations that might not they may not have that direct contact, but are always open and welcome to to join in.
Yeah.
So these are definitely the types of resources and the services I'd like the veterans to know about. Just one more place to call, one more place to reach out to.
Yeah. No, that's true. And the other one, you know, I've got a hard stop on the hour, but trying to think of some other, areas that you could reach out to or one, if you're not familiar, get familiar with, I'm assuming it is in New York, and I know it's here locally, is 988, dialing 988 for suicide prevention.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, a lot of people look at you like, what is that? Where did that come from? I mean, it's not general knowledge to the public, unfortunately. And so that's just another resource if you're dealing with homeless, because that's where a lot of this comes out of, is out of the homeless community.
Yeah.
So, but that's just another resource. The VA itself, it has its drawbacks, but it still has some good services to, refer them to. And a lot of guys from the homeless that I've dealt with, which is minimal on my side, but my organization has dealt with, they don't know how to reach out to the VA. I don't know if it's because I know I had trouble reaching out to the VA initially, and dealing with them, it can be a pain in the arse.
Yeah.
And
I ended up, I really lucked out because I came from Phoenix, VA, which is horrid. I mean, it's just,
yeah, I
they
know the reputation.
they never settled that scheduling scandal from 2014.
No.
They never got on top of that. And a lot of people don't realize that while the emphasis was put on medical scheduling, they did the same thing to us in mental health.
Mhm.
So, um, and his name is Daniel Somers. I can't remember what his rank was, but he committed suicide in 2013. His mom, they're from San Diego. His mom was actually one of the whistleblowers that blew up the whole thing because he was trying to get mental health services and they kept blowing him off, blowing him off, and blowing him off. He wrote this unbelievable letter and posted it before he committed suicide.
Hmm.
And if you ever want to look it up, it's Daniel Somers, Somers. But he kind of set, and his mom, like I said, kind of blew that whole thing open. So when I came to New York, I'm overjoyed at the access to services that I've gotten and some of the things that have the Phoenix VA, like my ears and other. Uh, I I just saw a surgeon tomorrow. I got these nodes. Phoenix wouldn't touch them. New York's going to take them off. So but you go to Phoenix, and Department of Veteran Services is all over it. Their transitional programs are amazing. U.S. vets down in Phoenix, Manor House, where I was at. You come up here, and they're running these programs, this wellness programs, out of this violent, drug-infested shelter, where Vietnam veterans in the VA program are getting the shit kicked out of them, are being assaulted almost on a daily basis by these punks who are not eligible for VA services. So I'm raising hell now with the New York City Council because they're running that program instead of being, someone like Catholic Charities or Department of Veteran Services. It's actually being run by the New York City Department of Homeless Services. And they're just abusing, it's a $4 million project here. They're getting a lot of money, and we're not getting access to the resources and the services, which brings me into it, circumventing, going around these guys, trying to engage the veterans, and giving them ways to get access to resources, get access to these services, so that they can keep their sanity about them while they're in the shelter or while they're going through the process. Right now, it's taking about from the time that you come into the system until the time that you get housing, it's about 420 days. So it's, 14 months, 15 months, veterans are sitting in these shelters on average before getting housing. So it takes a lot. It takes a lot to try to keep your sanity. Overdoses are off the charts. This our shelters with our veterans are our place, I think, to grab these guys and get them started on a path to success, so that they're not doing this continued mental health breakdowns, chronic homelessness, that type of things. What was that?
You're muted, Bob.
That's better.
Yep.
Hey, Dave, were you a client of mine before? I think you were.
Yeah, you did one, blurb on LinkedIn for me.
We should talk again.
Okay, that's fine.
No.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Hey,
go ahead.
I have a. It's so. Can you? What is my city?
Are you familiar with Alignable? Ever hear of Alignable?
I have, yes.
Okay, it's very similar to LinkedIn or Facebook. It's a social media site. And Dave, you might even, if you go to mycity.com, how long ago were you a client? Do you remember?
Oh, boy, it's probably been well over a year.
Okay, in the search box, go see. Um, we help people with data. That's one of the things that we do. So what we do is um, we've built up millions of records of phone numbers, city, state, zip codes,
I'm
email.
listening. I'm just
You
gonna
know, in
refresh.
2018, LinkedIn took that away from everybody because you used to be able to request a download, and the only thing you would get is name and vocation after that. So I went
I
out.
know. I know how I got. I know how I got hooked up with you now through my city. I'm with military veterans in journalism, and you were you were listed as one of our resources that we can reach out to.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
Yeah, for information and that type of stuff. So I'm gonna have some fun on your website and take a look at some things. I'm also I'll also um, get to use some of my articles that I've been writing, and um, so I can that'll give you an idea of what we're trying to do here. I've been writing. I've probably written 30 small called "Be the Story" articles for kind of like what I've gone through transitioning out of homelessness into
I hear you.
into sustainable housing.
So in the chat room, oh, I see you put. Do me a favor, Timothy. Put your phone number in there as well in the chat.
Sure,
Um, I think we should talk.
absolutely.
And then what I'll do is I'll help you with mycity.com. Because
Okay.
who is it that you're trying to reach out to besides veterans?
I um, instead of going after the logistical side of it, as far as like organizations, I'm absolutely focusing on the mental health of the veterans who are in transition.
Oh,
So,
interesting. Okay.
we can overcome anything, right?
Yep.
Um, so we don't need to be felt sorry for, and that's what happens. We get a lot of this. I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry this. I'm sorry that.
I
What
hear you.
I'm doing is working on the logistical side of it as far as like giving that to the veterans. I want them to have names, phone numbers, emails, websites, contact information. But I want to be talking to the public about why do we need to be providing these? Why do we need to be paying attention to this? Is because what it does is it saves veterans' lives. We don't need to be felt sorry for, but we need access to different types of information so that we can clear our own path to success.
Well, in clearing your own path, you have to, I would assume, one of the major issues, especially for the homeless, is, having employment so that they can be able to get housing and the other issues that are there. So reaching out to the public, to the business public, to find employment for them and to support what they're doing, you need to be reaching not just, the public in general, you need to be reaching out to the business community, because that's
Yeah.
what's gonna help you. And within the business community, you'll find, some business leaders that may wanna assist specifically you and what you're doing. But you've got to reach out to them and let them know that you exist and why you exist. Just trying to help the vet is one thing, but to get there, you've got to get support. And the only place you're going to find support is, through the business community.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that can be, and then on the business side, just information wise for you when you're dealing with the business community, is there's a number of programs out there that benefit the employer when they hire a veteran, especially a long-time unemployed veteran. Work opportunity tax credits, WOTC. It's huge,
Yeah,
$9,600. But you need to be, they need to be aware of it, because a lot of employers aren't aware of those services that are out there.
Hey, Dave,
Yeah,
do me a big favor.
Yeah.
In the chat room, can you put your contact information?
yeah, sure.
And then what we'll do is, inclusive of phone number, what we'll do is the photo of my city right there in the red and the writing.
Yeah.
That's actually run by the head of my social media. And her name's Marie. And what she does is we record these meetings. Okay. Then what we do is we also send the video out to the people if they want to look at certain excerpts on that. My objective is to get this group up and running. Now, normally we have more people at this group. There were actually 50 people that registered, and only 3 of us showed up. So, 'tis the season, so they speak,
Yeah.
Yep.
I've got it with all of the I'm on a couple of veterans task force. Nobody's showing up for anything right now.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God it's not me alone.
No, and I'm gonna have to jump off. One thing, real quick, Bob, on your 214 in your wallet, one, you can take a picture of it and have it on your phone, so you don't have to carry it. And
Right.
2, are you registered with the VA?
Oh, I'm sure I am.
Okay, well, I would assume, the vast majority, and I have got several friends in that boat, will accept your VA card that you're a veteran. So
Yeah.
you can just carry that. I know I carry mine, well, because I go to the VA a lot, but
Right.
it also I'm retired, so I got a retired ID. I don't need to do the
Yeah.
214. Occasionally it comes up, but with the retired ID and the VA, and my card actually states that I am rated, doesn't say what, but I'm, and so that helps. And I
Yeah.
know
Mine
several
just says
friends,
service connected on it now, but
yeah,
Marie, do you remember my client that is an attorney that does works with veterans?
I'd like to know that one.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, he blows me away because I never remember his name. And I ran into him down in San Diego. I was at a meeting, and so we became very, very friendly. And he's got one of those names
was
that
this recently?
No. This goes back several years. But he's still, I talked to him like a few months back. And he's got one of those names that I just never, ever, ever remember. But Marie is my memory.
There you go. All right.
All right, well, listen, guys, I think we have to jump off.
Yep.
but you know, plan on coming back. We're not going to do anything next week. Around the first year, we'll start it up again. And I look, there's climbing on 1 million people on LinkedIn that are veterans.
Wow.
Veteran, 1 million. So
Yeah.
that tells you something, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And let's
Yeah,
see.
I've got to increase. I have to increase my my footprint on LinkedIn, and I get more. I actually have a person here in New York. She's was a reporter at the New York Times, and so she's helping me get more of a presence on LinkedIn.
Visibility.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, real
Well, I
fast, and
can
I'm
also,
jumping, Timothy, there's an organization that's affiliated with the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce, and they have a veterans chamber that's affiliated with them. I used to be a member of that organization. Right now, not because of cost, but on the veteran side, those guys are really up to speed on what's going on. So it's the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce. Go into their site. They have a link to their veteran site, and some great people in there that I've known. And you know, I'm looking to get back as a member, but I ran out of bandwidth on trying to deal with them. Plus, I'm on the West Coast, they're on the East. When they had video meetings, it was at 7 a.m. for me, which means I'm out of bed at 6. I'm a morning person. So, but you know,
I
that's
have
what
two
I want to
names.
look into. And
I have
this
two
is
names.
this is great.
I have two Dave Austins in my city. One is Pacific Southwest Financial, and the other one is Aspire Partners. Neither one of
I'm
you?
affiliated, that's a long story. I'm affiliated with Aspire Partners.
That must be you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna invite you to connect.
I thought we were, okay, but send the link.
No, I made some changes.
Okay.
It's all on my city stuff.
All right.
Just to put let's connect.
All right, I'm gonna jump and we'll see you when the new year, I guess, sometime. Take care.
You
Nice
got it.
meeting you. Thank you, Dave.
Take care, gents.
Yep.